3 years in this city had taught me two things: the rent was brutal, and roommates could be worse. But nothing prepared me for the day my landlord called to tell me I was moving out when I hadn't said a word. My name is Emma, and I've been in this city for almost 3 years. Although I love it, some things about it make me want to rip my hair out. One of the main things is my roommate, Chloe. I met Chloe when I first moved here, and I was eager to start my career after graduating. But the job market was harsh, and the rent prices in this city are absurd, so finding a place that was both affordable and close to work was difficult. Chloe was about 5 years older than I, but we shared some interests, like a love of takeout and a sharp dislike of early mornings. The apartment was in a great location near cafes and parks, and just a few blocks away, so when she posted on a roommate's website that night that she was looking for someone to share a 2-bedroom apartment, I jumped at the chance. To stay at my office, I was willing to put up with a few of Chloe's peculiarities, but eventually, the cracks appeared. At first, it was the small things, like the fact that Chloe would leave dishes in the sink for days without paying her fair share of the bills on time, and sometimes I'd return home to find the place in utter disarray. I'd bring it up to her, and she would apologize and promise to do better, but nothing changed. She began taking on more cleaning duties, picking up her slack, and paying a little more for utilities to keep things going smoothly. To make matters worse, she was constantly working from home, spending most of her time relaxing on the couch or inviting people over at strange hours. Worst of all, she never respected my boundaries. She would enter my room without knocking, scatter her belongings in public spaces, and use my belongings without asking. I nearly did a few times, but this apartment's location was ideal. It was close to everything I needed, including my job, friends, gym, and grocery store. Even though Chloe was a pain, I told myself it was worth it, and I wasn't exactly in a position to be picky because the city's rental market was still incredibly expensive, and I couldn't afford to find a new place at the time. Then came the breaking news. My landlord called me earlier today to inform me that you were moving out. I didn't anticipate anything unusual when I answered the phone, but as soon as I heard the landlord's voice, I knew something wasn't right. Hey Emma, this is Greg, your landlord. I just wanted to inform you that your roommate, Chloe, called me earlier today. I froze, my mind racing as I tried to process what I had just heard. Makes sense, I didn't intend to move out. In fact, I had just signed a new lease with her a few months prior. I apologized to Greg, but that's not true. I stammered, trying to remain composed, and I didn't tell anyone that I was. Greg didn't seem convinced, but she was fairly clear about it. She stated that she couldn't stay with you any longer and that she believed it would be better if you left. I felt a wave of rage and incredulity that Chloe was lying to me. My first instinct was to rush home and demand an explanation from Chloe, but I hung up the phone, my heart racing. I had a million questions running through my head, including why she would do this, whether she was intentionally trying to kick me out, and what she meant when she said she couldn't handle living with me any longer. I had always been respectful and patient with my landlord. I didn't mince words, Chloe. I just got off the phone with Greg, and he told me you called him, saying I was moving out. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, when I got home. She looked up as I walked in, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. You okay? She asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. You look a little stressed. I've been trying to tell you that this place is too much for you, and you're always complaining about how much you hate it, and honestly, it's been affecting my mood. You're not exactly the best roommate, Emma, and I felt angry. Then she put her phone down slowly as if she was carefully considering what she would say next. Chloe, you're the one who never cleans up after yourself, doesn't pay your bills on time, and uses my belongings without asking. I've been trying to make it work, but this is too much. She shrugged almost casually, as if it wasn't her fault, saying, Look, I found someone else who can move in. They're a lot easier to live with, and honestly, I think you'd be better off. On your own. You've been struggling here, and I'm just trying to help. When I heard that she was accusing me of being the cause of everything and making life intolerable, I became extremely irate and frustrated. Without thinking, I yelled, I'm not moving out, Chloe. You don't get to make decisions for me, and you certainly don't get to lie to the landlord. I'm staying here, and I'll be speaking to Greg myself to clear this up. Her eyes narrowed, and she slowly got to her feet, towering over me in an almost intimidating manner, saying, You're not going to win this, Emma. I already told him, and Hyun's going to listen to me. It's over for you. My heart raced, but I had a mixture of frustration and resolve that told me that this wasn't the end of it yet. Chloe had made a huge mistake, and I knew what I had to do, but I didn't realize that this was only the beginning. The next few days were when Chloe dismissed the situation as though she had all the power, got to me after our conversation, but what hurt me was that she had the gall to lie to the landlord about me being the issue in our living situation. I knew I had to call Greg, the landlord, and explain everything because I couldn't just let Chloe get away with it. It wasn't like this. The following morning, I took a deep breath, picked up my phone, and called Greg. He answered the first ring and said, "Hey Emma, what's going on?" Greg's voice was calm, but I could tell there was a hint of tension underneath it, as if he understood what was happening but wasn't quite ready to confront Chloe himself. "Hi Greg, I wanted to talk to you about the conversation. I called you the other day to tell you that I was moving out." I asked, trying to sound calm, but I could feel the frustration seeping beneath the surface. "Oh, yes," Greg answered, sounding a little uncomfortable. "She said that you were leaving, but I didn't get the full details. She told me it was your decision, and I assumed everything was fine. I didn't think you'd be upset about it, so I laughed. A little, even though there was nothing funny about Greg. I'm not angry, I'm angry that Chloe lied to you and is attempting to get me out. I never said I wanted to leave. She's just trying to get rid of me, and I don't even know why she's been making this place a miserable place for months. She is irresponsible, never pays her share of the bills on time, and has no respect for me. She isn't the nice roommate she presented herself as, and now she is attempting to use you as a cover for her because she doesn't want me still here." Because she couldn't control me, I could practically hear Greg's brain processing everything I said. There was a long silence before he spoke again, and when he did, his voice was a little more serious. "I realize that's not what I was told, but I believe you that I don't tolerate manipulation or lying in my properties. To be honest, I was considering letting her stay, but if she's making things this difficult for you, I'll have to consider what's best for you both." Greg hesitated for a moment before responding, "Okay, I'll call Chloe in and talk to her myself. I don't want any more trouble with this. You're a good tenant, Emma. I don't want this to become a bigger issue than it needs to be," I said calmly, "but I just want to stay here. This place is everything to me, and I can't afford to move out. I don't want Chloe to be here anymore. I think it's best if she's the one to leave. Had no problems with you, so let me take care of this from here." I hung up the phone feeling a strange mixture of relief and anxiety, but the worst part was still to come. Chloe would have to be informed that she was the one who was out. I paced my apartment, still in shock that this was happening. Chloe had been my roommate for nearly 2 years, and now everything was falling apart. I had no idea what was going to happen next, but one thing I was positive that I would no longer allow her to walk all over me. The next few hours seemed to drag on forever, and I was unable to concentrate. Every sound outside my door made my heart race, and I kept checking my phone every few minutes in the hopes of hearing from Greg. It wasn't until about noon that I finally received the call. "Hey Emma, it's Greg." Greg said, "Hey Emma, I've spoken to Chloe, and I'll be honest, she was furious when I told her." "You're serious?" I asked in a voice full of disbelief because, after everything that had happened, Chloe was finally being held accountable for her actions. She tried to argue, but it wasn't even a close call. "I've already told her that she needs to find a new place to stay because I won't put up with her lying to me or making my building a toxic place for the tenants." I felt a wave of relief and triumph when Greg confirmed that she had 2 weeks to move out. She wasn't happy about it, but there was no other option, so I'm doing what's best for everyone. Chloe had caused me many problems, and now that it was over, I wouldn't have to deal with her manipulation and chaos any longer, but I didn't realize that she wasn't going to go down without a fight that afternoon. Received a brief text message from her that said, "You're going to regret this, Emma. You think you've won, but you haven't." I didn't even bother to reply because her behavior only served to confirm what I already knew, that she was a toxic person who couldn't take responsibility for her actions. She was trying to manipulate me until the very end, and now that everything was falling apart for her, the next few days went by quickly, and Chloe packed up her belongings. The apartment, which had been tense, was finally beginning to feel like mine again when the new roommate arrived. At first, I was a little anxious because the whole situation with Chloe had been so chaotic, and I wasn't comfortable with her being so upset over something that she caused herself, but as she packed up her belongings, I felt a strange sense of vindication. I wasn't sure what to anticipate from someone new, but when the doorbell rang and I answered it, I saw a cool-headed woman in her early 30s with a warm smile. Her name was Lily, and she was a welcome change from Chloe. She put me at ease right away with her laid-back attitude and courteous manner, and over the following few days, we got to know one another a little better. Lily was clean, courteous, and truly wonderful. Chloe didn't handle the news well. Every time I saw her in the hallway or on the way to the elevator, she gave me a chilly, resentful look, making it obvious that she still couldn't accept the fact that she was being kicked out rather than me. "I can't believe you went behind my back like that," she spat at me one afternoon. I could tell she was looking for a peaceful living situation, and that made all the difference. "You think you're so much better than me, Emma, and you're going to regret what you just did." I was done listening to her, Chloe, and you're the one who made this impossible. I tried to remain calm, but you lied, manipulated the landlord, and made living here a nightmare for us both. You got exactly what you deserved, and her face turning red with rage, she stormed out of the room without saying anything more. Apartment, slamming the door behind her, I stood there feeling like I had finally settled in. The apartment that had felt like a prison had once again become a peaceful haven, and I was done with Chloe. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let her toxic energy back into my life. However, things seemed to settle down after a few days, and Lily, my new roommate, was a pleasure to live with. I was thankful for the fresh start that came from a few conversations about work and how we had both had our share of challenging roommates in the past, but even though I tried to move on and put the whole thing with Chloe behind me, I couldn't get rid of the feeling that she wouldn't let me get away with it so easily. Chloe wasn't the kind to just walk away quietly, and she made that obvious in her most recent angry words, and I couldn't help but wonder what she might do next. Her plans quickly came to fruition, and a week or so after she moved out, I received a call from Greg. My heart stopped when I answered, "Hey Emma, it's Greg. We've got a situation." I instantly tensed. Is everything okay with the apartment? Well, not exactly Chloe, but she's been trying to cause trouble. Greg said, his voice tinged with frustration. She's been making some pretty serious accusations. She's accusing you of harassing her and creating problems in the building, and she's even threatened to take legal action if nothing is done about it. I felt a sick knot tighten in my stomach. What? Are you serious? She's saying that you've been spreading rumors about her to the other tenants, and now she's demanding money for the emotional pain she's been through since leaving the building. I haven't done any of that, and I haven't even spoken to her since the day she left, so this is all made up. I know Emma, so I don't buy it for a second, but I need to know that you're not going to escalate things. I'm going to talk to her, but I just wanted you to know what's going on. Greg explained that I didn't want this to become something more complicated than it already is, so let me handle it. The next few days were more chaotic than I would have liked, and Chloe began showing up at the building almost every other day, standing in the lobby or even knocking on my door, trying to incite everyone against me by twisting the narrative to make herself seem like the one who had been wronged. Greg, however, couldn't help but feel a little shaken because Chloe's behavior was getting worse than I had anticipated. The last thing I wanted was to confront her, so I just ignored her every time she did, keeping the door closed and locking the chain to keep her out. However, I could hear her outside yelling and pounding on the door, demanding answers, so I knew she had no intention of letting this go. I had to take action because I couldn't let Chloe ruin my peace again, so I collected all the evidence I had, including screenshots of my texts. I even contacted some of the other tenants to make sure no one had heard or seen anything that could support Chloe's story. I wasn't going to allow Chloe to continue to twist the truth, and the last straw came when she appeared at the building office. I had just returned from work and was strolling through the building when Chloe arrived. I had emailed recordings of her ranting when she was still living here, and I was looking for anything that would demonstrate just how insane she had been during our time together. I noticed that Chloe was crying and that her eyes were red and puffy when she was speaking with the building manager, Karen. Karen appeared sympathetic, but I could tell that she wasn't completely convinced by Chloe's act. "Are you sure about this?" Karen asked Chloe in a soft but skeptical voice. "After all, we haven't had any complaints about Emma, and from what I understand, you were the one who hurried out, not the other way around. Emma stole everything from me, turned the landlord against me, and has been stalking and following me in an attempt to damage my reputation. I don't feel safe anymore, and I'm afraid to leave my apartment. I need help. I couldn't take it any longer." I approached the counter and stood directly next to them. My presence was enough to cause Chloe to snap her head in my direction. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice steady but thick with Chloe. "You need to stop lying to Greg and trying to get me out of this apartment for no other reason than your selfishness. Now you're spreading rumors to anyone who will listen," and Chloe's eyes widen. "I'm not lying, you're lying," I interrupted her, "and I'm done with it. You can keep trying to play the victim, but it won't work." Chloe hesitated for a moment, her smug expression faltering as she realized that I was no longer intimidated by her antics. Fortunately, Karen intervened. "I believe that's sufficient, Chloe. I don't appreciate these kinds of accusations without any concrete proof, Emma. We'll review everything you've provided and make sure the truth comes out. I have everything I need to prove what happened. If you want to escalate this, I'll take it to court." Chloe's face turned red, and I saw her jaw tighten. She was losing control of the situation, and I wasn't going to give her any more ground. "This isn't about Emma, or at least I believe it is," I said in a cool, collected voice. "You're not getting away with this, and if you keep trying to cause trouble, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are with that." Then, I turned to leave the office. For the first time in what seemed like an eternity, I felt in control as I walked away, but as I made my way back to my apartment, my phone buzzed with a new text from Chloe. "You'll regret this, just wait." I shook my head and rolled my eyes, but it seemed like she was just making things worse. She had learned nothing, and Chloe had been evicted a long time ago, so I thought I could finally breathe a little easier after I was able to cut off all communication with her. I started to forget what it was like to be on edge all the time, worrying about Chloe's next move. Surprise visits to the building were over, and the relief was almost tangible. A few weeks later, things started to feel normal again. Lily and I found a comfortable rhythm as roommates, laughed over dinner, shared stories from work, and bonded over the small things that made life enjoyable again. Greg, the landlord, was a quiet ally in all of this. When the truth came out, it wasn't long before she became a cautionary tale, a reminder to everyone that not everyone in the world could be trusted. He made it clear after the eviction that Chloe would no longer be permitted to rent in any of his properties. The other tenants were also informed of the situation, and although some initially appeared to support Chloe, they soon realized that trying to manipulate others was not a good idea. After being evicted from the building, she attempted to enter another apartment complex, but her reputation got the better of her. When she arrived to see a new apartment, the building managers called Greg to inquire about her past as a tenant, and Greg didn't hesitate to warn them. Word quickly spread, and Chloe soon found it increasingly difficult to find a place to stay. Avoided, and her attempts to make my life difficult were reduced to a distant memory. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to constantly watch over my shoulder. I was free and living my life without the negativity Chloe had attempted to introduce into it. However, Chloe wasn't finished causing trouble. One day, I received a message from another tenant stating that she had been attempting to get in touch with them to get help returning. She had apparently run into financial difficulties after being evicted, and now she was trying to play the sympathy card, but nobody was buying it, and she was still burning bridges everywhere she went. When I learned about it, I couldn't help but feel a little bit of sympathy for her, but she was obviously lost and still clung to the belief that the world owed her something, perhaps in her heart. She would understand that playing the victim only got her so far, but I couldn't let that be my problem any longer. A month later, Lily and I went to the beach for a little getaway to celebrate surviving the chaos. It was the kind of calm day I had been longing for, no drama, no toxic people, just the sun and the sound of waves crashing against the shore. It felt like a new beginning, and for once, it wasn't just an escape, it was a new chapter in life. Was improving, I was gradually regaining my trust in other people, and Chloe was finally a thing of the past. Her attempts at retaliation had failed, and she was now just another person who would eventually fade into the background. I wasn't going to allow her to interfere with my future any longer. My world was progressing and better than it had been in a long time, so with Chloe gone and no more drama to cope with, I at last found true peace. Please let me know what you think about this whole issue. I was thankful for one where I didn't have to worry about the next shoe dropping or looking over my shoulder.